Hey guys, it's Audra and welcome back to my channel. I am here today with my 2017 favorites. Now, I know I am behind everybody else and their dog because I saw these videos posted like 2 weeks before the end of the year. And inside I was like, are we done reading? Like, are we supposed to be stopping? What's going on here? So I wanted to finish out the year of reading and then comprise my list to share with you. So that is what I did. And because I am an elementary librarian, my reading is very widely ranged. So I chose 5 middle grade books, 5 YA books, and 5 adult books to share with you. Now the middle grade and the YA books will be in a specific order from my least favorite to favorite, but they're all my favorites. And the adult books will just kind of be randomly thrown in no specific order because I didn't read a whole lot of adult books that were like my all-time favorite like I have in the past. So without further ado, let's just get into it. Starting with the middle grade books, my 5th place spot is going to go to The Perfect Score by Rob Bouyer, I believe is how you say it. This one I talked about in another video, so I'm going to do it very briefly, synopsis on that. And it is about 6 kids that are working together to get the perfect score on like the state test. And it's told from all 6 perspectives. So it's very fun. You kind of got to stay on top of things to connect with each story because they're told in alternating chapters as well. Basically, it starts with the school is cutting out all the fun things, so no read aloud, less recess, all of this state prep testing starts happening, and the kids kind of want to revolt against it. But the storyline of these kids and how different they are and how they work together, even though they kind of hate each other at sometimes, is very endearing, as well as the adult relationships you see between the teachers and when they go to the nursing home. Everybody is somehow connected, and it's just very heartwarming, and I definitely recommend it for anybody who likes alternating perspective books or just a good, heartwarming read about kids. My 4th place book goes to The Ethan I Was Before by Ali Standish. I think this is a debut novel. I'm not sure, to be honest. But this was one about a boy obviously named Ethan, and he was responsible for an accident that essentially killed his best friend. And it's, of course, about his grief. He moves to a different town to get a new start and tries to make a new friend, but holds back, obviously, because he's kind of been hurt by the friendship and the loss in the past. And so it's his story on getting a new start. You start to realize that things aren't quite as what they seemed with his best friend that had died, and you start figuring things out. The last page tore me apart. The passage was so good. I keep a book of quotes, and I actually wrote down the whole page, which I have never done before, and so that really stuck with me. This book was in our mock Newbery Club for my 5th graders at school, and 40 kids read it. It was their favorite. I definitely recommend it. It's kind of a heartbreaker, but I know you will love it. My 3rd place book goes to Ban This Book by Alan Gratz. If you've been around here at all, you know he is one of my favorite children's authors. He mostly does historical fiction, and this is realistic fiction all about banned books. And it came out just in time for Banned Books Week, and I absolutely loved it. It's about a girl named Amy, and she realizes her favorite book is taken off the shelf and finds out that a parent has put in a challenge book request and it has to be taken off the shelf. Well, this parent kind of goes overboard, and all these books get pulled off the shelf to where there's basically a whole lot of nothing left. So her and her friends start this like underground locker scenario where they start borrowing out all these books, and they're all listed on the back. But a lot of them are books that I read as a kid and growing up, and they're still good ones that kids still check out today. So they have this underground locker, and that gets kind of out of control, essentially, and the kids figure out a plan to come up with how to fight back against the man and prove that all these books, every single book, could be challenged, and it is up to teachers to let you read the books, and parents are the only ones allowed to tell you that you can't. So as a teacher, as a librarian, I think this should be a required read. I'm not sure if kids would love it, but it's definitely one for adults to figure out what you should be giving to kids to read, which is everything, unless their parents decide otherwise. My 2nd place book is going to Chester and Gus. It is by Cami McGovern. It's the first one of hers I have read. Oh my gosh, you guys. I adored this book. So this is the story of Chester, who is actually the dog. So it's the dog's point of view. It was so great. As a 5th grader said, this can either be good or it can go really bad when it's a dog's point of view. But Chester wants to become a service dog, just like his mom. It starts out when he's a puppy, and it tells you the story of how these therapy dogs go live with a family. They are trained there. They come back before they find their boy or their girl or whatever. And then he gets placed with Gus, who is autistic and not very verbal. And it's just how he takes care of this boy, even though other people can't understand him. And it's all about like how the dog is treated and how it makes him feel. And it's just a very, very powerful read. It actually made me look into getting a dog myself that I could take to school to listen to kids read. I did get one, and he is trained by the prison. His name is Brady. You may have seen him in some of my other videos. But we have some work to do before we're ready for that. We're a giant puppy over here. As you will see in my adult books, he's ripped up 2 books. In the last 24 hours, he has ate a computer mouse and a eyeshadow palette. So we got some work to do before we can go to school like Chester. But definitely check this book out. Now, my number 1 spot for middle grade goes to Save Me a Seat by Sarah Weeks. This book is very short. I read it in one night. It wasn't even on my radar. I had a group of 5th graders last year that passed it around among themselves talking about how great it was, and then they handed it to a boy that really wasn't a reader, and he came in and all he said to me was, "I loved it. The bully got what he deserved at the end." It's like, all right, I'm taking this home tonight to figure out what it is about. And like I said, I binge read it. It was so great. So Joe is bullied for being in special ed. Ravi is bullied because he's from India. And it is their story back and forth, alternating chapters once again. They aren't really friends yet, and it's kind of how they grow together and how they team up to kind of get back at this bully. So getting back at the bully obviously is not a message you really want to give to kids, but that part was funny. The part that really stuck with me is that it made me think more as a teacher on how we have got to make sure we get names of kids right. Ravi really talks about how here in America or in any English language, we kind of emphasize the wrong syllable in their name, so we essentially get them wrong. So because of this book, I made it a point to really get to know my new students at the beginning of the year, especially ones that are of a different culture that may have names that don't really come naturally for me to say. And so because of that, I was able to form a relationship with new students, but you could really tell that it was special to them that somebody was stopping and learning their names. There was one specifically, he taught me his preschool sister's name, and it took me a long time to get. We had a good laugh about it. He opened up to me about his family, his culture, his home country, and it was just great. So this book made a lasting impression to me, not just the storyline, but the impact that it had on me as a teacher. So I would definitely check it out if you have a chance. So let's just get into the YA books. My 5th place goes to Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco, I believe is how you say that. This is the first in a series about a girl named Audrey in the 1800s who is going into forensic science when women do not do that back then. So there is a lot of anatomy and forensics and autopsy conversation in this book, as well as figuring out who Jack the Ripper really was. But it's a series, and I listened to it as an audiobook, and I cannot wait to pick up the next one when my Audible credit rolls in for the month. So definitely give this one a shot if you like historical fiction or anything murder mystery. My 4th place YA book goes to A List of Cages by Robin Rowe. Now here on book 2, there's a lot of controversy about this book. You either love this book or hate this book for so many trigger warnings. I loved it because of the relationship between the 2 characters. It is about a boy named Julian who has been in foster care and a boy named Adam who is his foster brother, and they reconnect when Julian comes back to the school. So Julian has been placed back in the home with his uncle, and there is a whole lot of child abuse. It definitely reaches that border of trigger warnings for sure. Now, unfortunately, I don't want to say I'm desensitized to it, but I have worked in the foster care system, and the stories that I've heard in real life are extreme. I have goosebumps thinking about it right now. So that part probably did not hinder me from reading the story as it would with other people. It is just a heart-wrenching read, and I can't explain it any other way than that. Yes, there's a lot of abuse, so if you don't want those kind of stories, especially revolving around children, steer clear from it. But if you want a solid relationship between 2 kids that are fighting against all odds to survive, to have a family, Definitely check this one out. So the third place will go to Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. Once again, this is the one I read in one night. And this is about a boy whose brother, I believe, is shot, and he wants to get revenge. And he is in the elevator, and in a course of, I believe, 60 seconds to get from the top to the bottom, every floor opens, and somebody comes in to talk to him about this decision. And it's not what it seems. You figure out who those characters are, and that last page blew me away. I binge read this, so I don't remember a whole lot more about it. I'm definitely going to pick it up again. I just know that it left me shocked, and it made me want to pick it up and reread it right then and there. But I hopefully will get to it again this year. I definitely recommend it. It's short because it is told in verse. It is an outstanding read by a great Own Voices author. Please pick it up. My second place one goes to Piecing Me Together by Renee Watson. This one is about a girl named Jade, and she is obviously, as you can see, an African-American teenager, and it's just her quest to basically do what she loves, which is art, even though her home life may not be the most ideal situation. She is in a mentor relationship with an older girl who is actually very well off, and Jade feels like it's not at all a equal relationship because her mentor has a lavish life. And she just talks a lot about how teachers kind of stereotype and adults stereotype what a Black community life is like. And she just wants people to let her live her life. Stop trying to give me handouts. Let me earn things. And this is another one. Powerful for teachers, powerful for adults. Everybody should be reading this to kind of get a glimpse into, like, wake up. If you want equality, give it to them. So I'm definitely recommending this to all of my teacher friends. The first place book, this is one I got from the library. I'll just show you it. It is Words in Deep Blue by Kath Crowley. And I tabbed it up so much at the end that I actually have purchased my own copy, and I haven't got it yet, but I have never done that before. Now, it's not the best plot, I'll give it that, but this is basically my soul and who I am ripped out and poured onto paper. It is about Henry and Rachel. Henry's family owns a second-hand bookstore, and it's just a lot of fun how much they love books. They have this corner where people leave books and they write notes back and forth to each other, and it's just very, very cute and endearing what the store does. Well, of course, things are going downhill financially, and they try to sell the place, and it's kind of a story of that. And then the other side of that is Rachel, who is coming back into this community where Henry is after her brother has died in an accident, and she has told no one about it. And obviously, she's changed. Anything like that is going to change you. And it's just kind of how she fits back into Henry's life, because that was her crush from before, even though Henry's obsessed with somebody else. And it's just like a cute contemporary, but the commentary on books and how important they are and how life-changing they can be, as well as the commentary on grief and how it changes you, it becomes who you are, and how you have to share it with others in order to kind of get them to understand you afterwards. I totally relate to on so many levels. Obviously, I'm a book lover. My brother passed away 5 years ago, so those connections just tore me apart. And this is staying on my shelf. Not only is it a beautiful cover, but this is just who I am. So if you want to know me as a person, I guess read this book. We're going to move into the adult books really quickly. I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis. They are in no particular order, like I said. So the first one is The Orphan's Tale by Pam Jenoff. Well, as you can see, this is one that my dog ripped up, and my neighbor had a copy, so she let me borrow one of hers, and I totally adored it. This is basically Water for Elephants in the circus realm meeting World War II fiction, which is my favorite thing to read. So I really adored this. It is about a girl who I believe is 16, and she gets pregnant by a Nazi soldier. And of course her family disowns her, and they make her give her baby away, and she has to go like on the run. Well, on the run, she comes across a train car that is filled with Jewish babies, and she takes one with her. And then they go on the run together, and she finds this circus, and in order to say, she has to work within the circus and become an aerialist. So it's about her relationship with the older aerialist, as well as just kind of how they survive hiding that the baby is Jewish, and another aerialist is Jewish within this circus. And this was a solid 4-star read all the way through until I got to the epilogue, and it became a 5-star read. It was outstanding. So if you like World War II fiction or Water for Elephants, you will love this read. The next one I'm going to share with you is Almost Sisters by Jocelyn Jackson. This was a cute contemporary. It is about a woman who I believe is a comic book artist or a comic book writer, and she goes to like a Comic-Con and she meets this guy who is a hunky African-American Batman, and they hook up and she finds herself pregnant, but she doesn't know how to get a hold of him type of deal. So she finds it embarrassing that she has gotten pregnant from this one night because she is an older woman in her 30s and she should know better. So she kind of hides it for a while. And being from the South, she finds it problematic for her location of having a biracial baby. Now, so she goes and lives with her grandma and realizes that her grandma is kind of losing her mind. She's starting to get Alzheimer's, essentially. And then a body is found in the grandma's attic, and the old ladies try to hide it from everybody else, but of course they get caught, and they try to figure out who the body belongs to and why they were murdered and who did it. And that was great. The storyline of the baby was great. It was just a great contemporary read. The next one I had to share with you is The Orphan Train. I don't know why I waited so long to read it. It was great. It's one of those back and forth between present day and historical times. I believe it takes place in the 1800s, where orphans were put on this train that would go coast to coast, and people could adopt them along the way. So of course that was interesting. I had never heard about this part of our American history. And the present day story is about a girl that goes into an elderly woman's house to help her clean that house. And it's kind of how they build this relationship and about who the woman really is connected to the orphan trains. And it's just a great story. I highly recommend it if you like one of those historical present day connection stories like I do. They're my faves. My next one for you is Wife 22 by Melanie Gideon. This is another one my dog ripped up. So thank you, Brady. It is about a woman and she kind of gets bored in her marriage and she gets this random email about taking a survey for research about her marriage. And she gets all of these questions. There's like 100 questions and she just emails the researcher back. And of course they start building this weird flirty connection between the two of them. But the thing I loved about the story was that it was absolutely hilarious hearing this woman talk about all the stories with her husband and her kids and where she had gotten to in life. And of course, there is a twist at the end that you totally expect, but it was cute and it was fun, and I definitely recommend if you want a light contemporary to read. The last one I have to share with you is The Letter by Catherine Hughes, and this is the only adult book that I binge read in one weekend this year. It was a very quick read, I will give it that, but it's another one that kind of takes place in different storylines. So you have the storyline in 1930 about a girl that falls in love with this bad boy, and the dad doesn't like him, and they're going to get married. And before he gets drafted into the war, she gets pregnant, and she gets sent off to have this baby in the country where her aunt lives and kind of all that scenario. Well, before the boy leaves, he writes this girl a letter, and that is the letter, and it's kind of the story of where this letter ends up. Another storyline in this is in the 1970s where this woman is being abused by her husband and how she tries to get out of that, and she finds the letter in a coat pocket at the thrift store, and she wants to go on this hunt to find out who they are. And then of course at the end you have people from the 30s and the 70s hunting out the same person to find her, to give her this letter, and it's a beautiful ending. It's just a sappy, good historical fiction, present day connection, romance, and I loved it. Not gonna lie. So those are the books that I enjoyed in 2017. I hope you check some of them out. Please tell me which books you loved last year, and I will definitely give them a shot in 2018. I cannot wait to see what books really speak to my soul in 2018 so I can share them with you throughout the year. But as always, if you like this video, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!